Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. This is the weekend edition where we interview notable people from the world of real estate investing. Today is no exception. We have a great guest all the way from Denver, Colorado. Welcome to the show, Sean Roberts.
Thanks, Victor. It's good to be back on with you.
Well, great to have you here. It's been a while since you were last on the show, and I'm excited to have this conversation. This is an area that you work in that is really picking up steam in the industry as a whole. But maybe before we dive into the details, perhaps give a little bit of your backstory and how you got to this point in your journey.
Sure. Well, I started my career in real estate private equity, which I did for the first chapter of my professional life. And then I worked on a different startup before I came over to Villa. That business was in the vertically integrated brokerage, title, and mortgage space, which was really interesting. And then about a little over 3 years ago, I took the reins running Villa to really bring our business to the next level with an approach that is solely focused on utilizing offsite construction to build smaller entry-level homes in areas that are traditionally pretty hard to build, in infill projects and ADUs in backyards and ADUs by apartment buildings, and really doing that in a way that can be really cost efficient, fast, and deliver a high quality home using offsite construction and a lot of data driven technology that we've put around the problem set that we're focused on.
This is an area where I think we need a little bit more definition because there's many different forms of factory built construction. There's panelized at one end of the spectrum. There's volumetric modules at the other. Sometimes they get shipped with even the appliances strapped in place. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so we'll build generally one of two different ways. Either we'll build volumetric modular, where the structure is built as a three-dimensional box in a factory and then transported to the end project site. And that would be done in compliance with the local building code, which is typically the IRC. And then adjacent to that, we'll also build manufactured homes under the federal HUD code. And we do both. We do a lot of manufactured homes in California in particular, but we'll build both. So we're not doing anything that is panelized or 3D printed or any of these other more novel approaches. We're really focused on volumetric production, whether it's modular to the IRC or manufactured to the HUD code, both of which we like quite a bit and see a lot of efficiencies in doing and the types of typologies that we focus on building.
There is a stigma in some sectors of the market about a product being factory built. It's, your grandfather's mobile home park can have a bit of a stigma associated with it. Where is that line between something that's factory built versus a quote unquote manufactured home like you might get from Clayton Homes?
Yeah, well, we build with Clayton. We actually have delivered a number of their homes recently that are specifically built to their cross-mod standard, which is technically a manufactured home. It is built to the federal HUD code, but it meets certain criteria to qualify for Fannie and Freddie financing. So it's not that the HUD code, which is like any other building code, it's a performance-based minimum. Well, the HUD code is a performance-based code. The IRC is a prescriptive code. But for the HUD code, you have certain minimum standards that we build well in excess of when we build our product. So, for example, we're using 9-foot ceiling heights, 2x6 exterior wall framing, upgraded MEP systems that hit at least an Energy Star standard, if not higher. And the building performance, when you really go through all the different brass tacks of energy efficiency, the thermal envelope performance, the way it's framed, the way it travels, all the different materials, you're basically getting a building that will perform similarly, if not in some ways better than an IRC code site-built home. And you're able to do that at a much lower cost per square foot, which is a big part of the advantage we see at the way that we build.
Now, when you're building in a factory environment, there's a wide spectrum of ways you can do that. You can do the labor-intensive way. You can project the plans with a laser pattern onto a bed and have a machine put it all together. What's been the approach in your facility?
Well, so to be clear, we don't run our own production facilities. Okay. We partner with a number of third-party manufacturers that are the large manufacturers of home product. So that's really more on their end than ours. And I would say generally the factories are They're not necessarily using tons and tons of automation. They're designed to be pretty efficient and flexible with, more traditional building means. And while there is some level of automation, these are not like an auto manufacturer where everything's a bunch of robots on the line. It's much more manual than that, at least the way that a lot of them are doing it. And that allows them to be as cost efficient as they are.
Well, and it does drive a lot of savings. If I think about, when we talk about construction, people tend to focus on maybe what is often the simplest step, and that's just the framing of the structure. But then when you get into all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all of those other trades, often that in a site environment would require unionized trades, in a factory environment can be built maybe with much lower cost labor, and then only certain critical steps need to be performed by those licensed trades. Maybe it's the hookup to the electrical and so on. Is that part of where the savings come from?
Absolutely. I mean, the nature of the efficiency for factory built production comes from many different things. Part of it is you have all of your labor centrally located on the production line, so you can run that extremely efficiently. Like our factory partners can build the entire home basically from the framing station all the way through to having the home completed with the blinds on the windows. And they can do that very consistently in less than 2 weeks on the production line for each module. So they're very fast. And because the labor is so well utilized and managed in the factory, that takes a lot of cost out of the system. And then you also have a lot of the efficiencies and quality benefits of all the raw materials are right there in the factory, so you don't have delays waiting for things to show up on site. You're using a lot of jigs and other tooling in the factory to make sure that your floor cassettes and your wall panels are all square. There's a lot of systems testing that happens in the factory as well. So you know that the quality of the home that you're getting out on the other end is really well built, has been very rigorously QA'd and QC'd in the factory with all the systems having been tested there. And then when it gets to the project site, we go back and reinspect and retest everything again. So there's a lot of checks and balances that make sure that not only is it really cost efficient and fast to build, but you're getting a very good quality item at the end of the day too.
If you've ever spent any time on a construction site and just watch what happens, I mean, there's a lot of time lost with the framing crew walking back and forth to the pile of lumber at the end of the driveway just to pick up as many 2x4s as they can carry and take them to where they're needed. A lot of that time that's wasted, frankly, can be collapsed down simply by having material delivered as it's needed on the shop floor in the factory in the short sleeve environment.
That's exactly right. Like 80% of construction in a site-built format is just material handling, which is not a great use of time and labor if you can avoid doing it by making it way more efficient in a factory, which has been our approach.
Absolutely. So there's been a lot of changes to zoning codes, to some extent even to building codes. You mentioned California. There's been a lot of relaxation of zoning to allow for higher density and accessory dwelling units, in some cases up to 4 units on a single property. How do you design a product to take maximum advantage of that increased density? Because oftentimes when we talk about volumetric modular, we're talking still about single-story structures. Are you talking about multi-story buildings here?
We are, and we are building them. So we started about 6 years ago, focused on infill ADUs for single-family homes in California, and we developed a series of factory-built products that can be built by a number of different manufacturers on a white label basis for villa that range in size from, on the smaller end, 450 square feet, all the way up to 1,200 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath, larger homes that can be built as ADUs. And we've since taken that business into utilizing the same product line in multifamily applications, where we can build under the current laws in California up to, subject to a number of certain idiosyncratic constraints, but you can generally build up to 8 detached ADUs per multifamily property. And that's a great way to add additional density and yield into low-rise and garden-style multifamily properties that have excess or underutilized land. So we've been doing a lot of that. And then we also have gone into primary home building in a few different contexts, one of which is fire rebuilds in Southern California, particularly focused in Altadena. and in our own principal development business, where we've been buying infill land sites to build pockets of homes in a variety of different typologies. Probably the most notable one is the one that we just recently delivered in Northern California up in Santa Rosa. That'll be 25 homes, and that's a mix of 19 single-story bungalow homes and 6 two-story homes that are all being built with factory-built construction. So they can take a lot of different forms and typologies, but generally our focus has been 1 or 2 story, generally detached structures, which is really where we can drive the speed and cost efficiency and certainty benefits of the way that we build. And of course, modular construction can work for many different things. It can often work for, mid-rise multifamily buildings, and that's great. That's not currently our focus, but it can work in a lot of different typologies that go beyond just a single-story, single-family home.
One of the big time wasters in any form of new construction is the permitting process. And if you are dealing with a set of designs that have already been approved and signed off, is there efficiency to be gained in the permitting process? And then conversely, are you producing product that basically looks all the same? It looks like an army base, and people say, well, it's the 4th bungalow from the corner. You can't miss it,
Yeah, well, we do take an approach of using pre-approved plans, which allows us to go really quickly through building department reviews and permitting, which is great. But we've also designed our products to generally anchor around a pretty appealing craftsman style aesthetic, which works really well in California. And if you look at the product that we're deploying in Altadena, for example, that has been specifically designed around being able to build the home in a factory built setting, but also being cognizant of some of the local design and development standards to meet the aesthetics that are appropriate for that neighborhood, and also position a garage appropriately on the site. And for garages, we still stick frame those on site because they're not super efficient to build off site and ship an empty box full of air. But we take this hybrid approach of doing as much in the factory as is reasonable to do to drive the cost efficiency and speed benefits, and then build or apply certain site-built elements to meet the needs of the project and the specific requirements of the jurisdiction if there are certain architectural standards that we need to comply with.
Now, there are certainly some cases where, depending on the jurisdiction, an attached garage will cost you less from an insurance standpoint because it's part of the same structure as the home, whereas a detached garage could end up costing you a lot more because now they have to insure 2 separate structures. Is that a factor in how you design and build these?
It matters, but generally the site conditions and the way you're laying out the home and garage on the lot is going to be more driven by the physical geospatial reality and the code requirements and the setbacks. And, is it an alley loaded lot or a front loaded lot? Like those dynamics are generally going to be much more important than the marginal cost of insurance. It needs to be buildable at the end of the day, but we can do both. We're doing both attached garages and detached garages in both front-loaded and alley-loaded configurations. So again, it really depends on what the right approach is for the site. And then, of course, that garage needs to be built to code with all the appropriate fire-rated materials and elements that go into it as well. But really, it's more about the site than it is the insurance cost, at least from our vantage point.
Love it. Well, Sean, love what you're doing. How is this business scaling for you? I know that when we spoke last time, you were still scaling up. Talk about how the business is scaling and what some of the constraints are there.
Yeah, well, we've grown. I think since the last time we chatted, we've launched our business in Colorado, where we're actively building a number of projects, which is great. So we're in 2 states now. And this year, we're going to have a pretty strong year-over-year growth in terms of revenue and unit volume based on our current backlog. So we are scaling in a way that is probably pretty different than how a lot of the big production builders are looking at 2026 by pulling back on starts and being a bit more conservative. Now, obviously, we're growing off of a very, very, very small base in comparison to most of those large production builders. What we're doing is working. It doesn't work absolutely everywhere for absolutely every typology, but where we are focused and for the types of projects and clients that we're building for, or for the types of infill developments that we're building for ourselves, we're finding it's working pretty well.
I love it. Well, Sean, if folks want to connect, if they want to learn more, what's the best way?
Villahomes.com is usually the best way. You can go to our website and see examples of many of the things that we have built, the various product offerings we have today. And whether you're an individual homeowner looking to add an ADU, or someone in Altadena looking to rebuild a fire damaged lot, or an institutional investor looking to add density to a property or develop a new site with offsite construction, we are equipped to work with all of those different types of clients. So, if you're looking to build homes off site and trying to figure it out and don't know where to start, calling Villa is a pretty good way to start. We built the business to be a much more streamlined on-ramp for folks to explore the benefits of off-site construction with a partner like Villa that can perform a lot of the work ourselves and support folks all the way through from design to doorbell across all the different capabilities that we built, whether it's in-house civil engineering and structural engineering or architecture or site design. There's a lot of things that we do that can really help our clients realize the vision of their project. If folks want to reach out, villahomes.com is the best place to go to.
Awesome. Well, Sean, great to connect as always. And for the listeners at home, reach out to Sean Roberts at villahomes.com. The links will be in the show notes. And in the meantime, have an awesome rest of your weekend. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.